I'm Simon Mitchell, the founder of Photo Enterprise, and right now I'm with Simeon Quarrie, who is known for his creativity and storytelling in both photography and video. So tell me, have you successfully bridged the gap between the two?
I guess a key thing was to make sure that the standard of the work was as high as I could possibly make it, and not be limited by the genre that you're in. So I think typically when you start to think of wedding photography, in people's minds that the standard used to be many years ago very mediocre. And I guess myself and some others, we weren't satisfied with that standard. We tried to reach higher and essentially produce a standard of work for photo or video that was more akin to the standard you'd expect of commercial work. And then it doesn't take a big client, a corporate client, much to be able to bridge the gap, to look at what you do and think, how does that apply to them? And we've just been very fortunate, but also put the hard work in at the beginning.
Fantastic. And what would you say to someone using an SLR to shoot video on?
Okay, I think actually the key thing when you shoot with an SLR is don't make the mistake in thinking that you can do it handheld. The key thing is actually the support. Sometimes you can use a stabilised lens, absolutely. Canon have got a number of those, but also, for example, Manfrotto have got the humble monopod, and that humble monopod keeps my camera steady and stable. And just with that one item, we're then in a position where we are able to essentially record probably 80% of a wedding production using that. When it comes to corporate, there are actually probably other accessories that we would try and use.
And what other accessories would you be using?
Good question. So we've got sliders, and sliders are quite important overall, sometimes with our productions in the sense of getting that movement. We're lucky enough that we have a Movi M10, and the Movi M10 from 3.5 System is like a gimbaled stabilization device, and it keeps things very steady. They are more pricey. They're not always 100% necessary, but because we wanted to bridge this gap between the commercial and the wedding work, we've then tried to push it as much as possible.
Right. Okay, cool. And how about sound equipment?
People have different thoughts on the ratio of the importance of sound, but regardless, sound against picture is immensely important. So as a minimum, we make sure that we have a microphone on top of the camera. So for us, we would use the Rode Video Mic Pro, currently is what we've got. And then possibly we would maybe use a lav mic, a lavalier. And that's a mic that you literally just clip to your lapel or inside your shirt. And then that will transform the audio. And then in very corporate commercial environments, what we might do is we might use like a boom mic over the top.
Yeah, I see. Fantastic. And having shot many weddings, is there anything you would like to say to anyone wanting to be a wedding photographer or videographer?
Don't do it. I'm joking. Be prepared for very long days. And also just, the thing with weddings, it can be exceptionally, can be quite routine after a while. And the aim is to break the routine. So that with every wedding that you do, you try and find something that's different about it, and that keeps you that inspiration to try and create something that's different, ideally different for each couple. So learn the craft, take it very, very seriously, because sometimes people use weddings as a starting point, but you can get sued hard for doing weddings. If you mess up something that happens once because you do not have the skill that's necessary, you put yourself in quite a dodgy zone and environment. So really appreciate the weight and the responsibility. Back it up with skill. Make sure you have the right equipment and make sure you have a backup camera.
Yeah, very important. Is there a photo or video that you've taken that has particular meaning to you?
I've got a few. There's a picture that I took of Melvin and Kyra. We call it Saved by Love. It's an image where Melvin is carrying Kyra in his arms, and I can't elaborate on the whole story here with video, but if you understood the backstory behind that image, you would really see how the story and the image, there's a synergy there. So for me, that one has a lot of meaning to it, because it's quite a hearty and touching story.
Fantastic. That sounds good. And how did you get started professionally? What was your big break?
Big break. sometimes there aren't big breaks, there are stepping stones. Sometimes we look for something that's this big dramatic change, and often that doesn't happen. The key thing is to make sure that you are making forward steps, like progression, one step at a time, and then before you know it, you are at that destination. So don't look for the big break. Sure, place yourself in a position that means there may be a chance of it, but as a minimum, make sure that you are just progressing one step at a time.
Good advice. And your work is known for being vivid, fresh and creative. What advice would you give someone wanting to follow your example?
Look at where you get inspiration from. Maybe a really talented photographer said, he didn't take inspiration from, say, wedding pictures. I'm similar. The work that I look at is maybe work that we see every day in magazines, on billboards. For me, with video, I might be looking at film and television, and I'll be looking at how that could inspire me and create some type of vision for work that I'm about to create.
Fantastic. And finally, you met with James Bond producer and screenwriter Michael Wilson. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, he had watched all of my work and he hadn't. It was a very brief encounter with the Royal Photographic Society. In the picture, I look like I'm cool, calm and collected, but in real life, I was like, woo, he's the man! So yeah, it was a really cool experience.
Fantastic. Well, if people have enjoyed listening to you, want to find out a bit more, where can they find you? What's your website?
We have weareforvida.co.uk, which is WeAreVivida, or just go to shootwithsimeon.com, and that's a new website. Actually, you're going to be one of the first to know about it. Shootwithsimeon.com. We're trying to create a behind-the-scenes website where you can have access to behind-the-scenes videos as we're creating live on the day, and then edit it and share it with you all. Hope you enjoy that one.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time today.